Steve Lefar is the Executive Director of Analytics. Steve, welcome to the interview.
Nice to be here.
Let's start with, tell us what have you been experiencing so far at Exponential Medicine?
It's been a remarkable group of people. I've never been around so many people that are just thinking about the future of medicine. The merger of technology and traditional healthcare is inspiring. I go to conferences all over the country. I've been in healthcare for 30 years, and this just gets my juices flowing to think about what's possible.
You know, you made a statement before we went on air, and you said that this conference should have 8-year-olds running around it. Why is that?
So I've been in education for a long time as well. I'm on a school board and have been working in education. We've seen great advances in the STEM curriculum. We've seen remarkable changes in education, things like Khan Academy, Coursera. But what we're not doing is inspiring young kids about careers early. And by having them understand the value of things like anthropology and biology and the integration of these disciplines, the way so many speakers talked about, is just critical for careers of the future. We teach our kids so much about, oh, you could be a coder or robots are cool, but the notion of changing the world through science and science being its own renaissance, we're not doing enough, and giving kids exposure early to how these disciplines come together, the neurosciences, in words and in ways they can understand it. It's practical. They would get most of what goes on here. They could walk around the room and understand these devices. And so giving them that exposure, even if we called it Exponential Med Kids, or did it by video and beamed it into classrooms.
Did Daniel catch that? Daniel
I talked to Daniel about it, and now I'm calling him out on camera here. We have to do this in the next few years, and I'll commit to helping.
I was going to say, I'm sure that he would tap
board.
you to help head that up.
I'm on board.
Excellent. All right. You know, Steve, of all the innovations we've heard about here at XMed, what one thing do you think will significantly alter the way the average consumer experiences healthcare over the next decade?
So I won't use the word personalized medicine because it's so general, but if you think about N of one sort of thinking, the ability to know what works for individuals. There are so many drugs that don't work for certain people but work for others, whether it be cancer or whether it be the flu shot. The ability to understand the microbiome, all of these things together, and I'm no expert in any of them, but what inspires me, we treat most people like it's just part of an assembly line, and they have parts that we look at, and we look at them in very...
Everything's discrete, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that whole body approach to knowing what's going to work for one person and what's going on, you take that convergence of that kind of information, whether it be genomics, what we know about the microbiome, what we know about people's brains and how we're wired, that ability to personalize treatment for individuals, which gets to the whole issue of health disparities, which I know is another question, but the ability to make it fair, that folks like me who have access to care that most people may not on the planet, it's not right. And so by democratizing care through information, that's the biggest innovation. You know,
you touch on a theme, Steve, that has really been touched on so much, is that democratization of healthcare, and it really does mean involving the consumer, the patient, in their healthcare decision making, and I think what you're looking to do as far as making that information available at that personal level is really something that is so meaningful, so meaningful.
Absolutely.
All right, so another question for you. How do we take bleeding edge ideas and technologies from XMed and integrate them into the current healthcare system in an impactful way?
So I don't think my healthcare colleagues will get too mad at me because I've been at this for a long time. But healthcare, for good reason, is full of people who kind of move as curmudgeons in a very slow pace to new adoption. They have seen so many hype cycles, things that didn't work, and in healthcare it's different because people die or get harmed when things get overhyped. And so bringing bleeding edge technologies, you've got to do the real research, you have to commit to validations, you can't skip doing the real work that convinces clinicians and consumers that it really is good science, and it has to start with good science and sound science. Secondly, understanding workflow. At Analytic, we talk a lot about this challenge of, we know where it may be in 20 years, but in the next 2 or 3, we have to fit into the existing payment systems, the existing workflow systems, so many technologies that are promising have just withered because they try to change healthcare instead of trying to fit into healthcare, and it moves slow in many ways for good reasons, in other ways for not good reasons.
Right, right. I think that again, such a reasonable statement to make, in that you really have to make yourself relevant to today's, really who controls the healthcare system now.
And do lots of pilots.
Right.
So find health systems that'll take you into the real world and pilot things and do real good clinical studies when you're out there. And the venture guys don't always like to hear that because it takes time.
Right.
But if you want a home run, that's what you have to do.
We had Dan Gordon of IBM on earlier, and he was talking about taking this, bleeding edge technology and maybe pacing it, maybe
Yes.
breaking it down
Yes.
into Is that something that an analytic would take that approach too?
Absolutely. So we're starting with imaging. We've done it for lung cancer, we've done it for risk, and we'll keep expanding it very rapidly through the deep learning. But we're not stopping there.
Right.
As a company, we look at the integration of all medical data with deep learning to facilitate and augment better diagnosis, better treatment planning for the patient with the physician. Physicians aren't going away. Their role will change as a facilitator. The ability to physicians are unhappy with their jobs now, putting them back in the role of being able to spend enough time to have empathy
Right.
and to actually engage physically with the patient. That's what we want to enable.
I think another theme that your response makes me think of is, do you feel that team-based care is really a part of the solution that you hope to bring to market, as far as putting that emphasis back on the physician having time to practice the medicine that they went to medical school to learn, and maybe using a care team that specializes in maybe addressing nutrition needs, social work needs, all the other parts that do go into the healthcare environment.
Absolutely. If you actually look at patient-centered medical home, there's been some successes, some failures. If you look at even getting into the home, walking into a home, having a home care aide, make sure that the plates are on a lower shelf, that the rugs
Right.
are up. These are simple things. So having a care team surround our most vulnerable people, have a care team that is really trying to integrate care is absolutely critical. It's shown time and again, having social workers, mental health issues drive the vast majority of emergency room issues,
Yes.
other than car crashes, train wrecks, and things like that. Domestic violence, drug abuse, other mental health issues. So bringing mental health professionals in, bringing physical therapists in, the physicians really love it, and I get to see a lot of young physicians. This is how they're wired. Some of us who may be a little older, we're not that used to it, but the group care, the team care has proven to work remarkably to reduce healthcare costs and improve quality.
Absolutely. One more question for you, Steve.
Absolutely.
If you could magically fix one specific problem with healthcare today, what would it be? And if that problem were solved, what would the likely impact be?
So there's a topic called health disparities.
Yes.
And so the notion, as I said earlier, that people in this room have unparalleled access to healthcare that most of the world, let alone even the US, where it's better, don't have. And I think we'd have a better society, we'd have more productivity, a lot of our economic issues, the incredible cost. We spend $2 trillion here. I don't even know the number of how much is spent worldwide on healthcare, $10 trillion. If we eliminated disparities and educated people on how to take care of themselves, gave them access to basic primary care, clean water.
Right.
If we could eliminate that and solve that magic bullet, and it's beyond technology, I think we would live on a planet we'd all be a lot happier on.
I terrific response to that, because I know that the social determinants of health
Yes.
can trump any magical
Absolutely.
technology.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you. If I was on that team,
We're in
that would be my
violent
pick too. Yeah. All right. So Steve Lefar, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us here live at the Guidewell Insights Lounge. We're here in the Innovation Lab. You can hear the
Appreciate
buzz.
it. Thank
Hope
you.
you go enjoy. All right.